So, data governance and good governance is not very much difficult to establish the link between the two. In contemporary times, it is difficult to think of good governance without digital governance. Data governance is a part of the wider or the bigger concept of digital governance. So, good governance, there are different perspectives on good governance. You can look at good governance from the point of view of law, the legal system, how efficiently, effectively laws are being enforced, or from the economic perspective, that how efficiently and effectively, how prudently the resources of the country are being deployed, being utilized to meet the needs, the aspirations, the requirements of the society. Then you can look at good governance purely from the point of view of administration, how efficient and effective administrative machinery is, because they are more proximate to day life of the people. How nicely the available resources are being organized, how nicely, how effectively the administrative system and institutions and agencies are interacting with the society to understand their likes, dislikes, preferences, and how they are managing the available resources to meet the requirements of society. So therefore, collection of intelligence for policy making, then implementation, then collection of feedback, application of correctives, constant interaction with society. So many things are there. Lot many things put together constitute good governance. But there is no doubt that good governance invariably involves, in the context of a modern democratic welfare state, when you think of good governance, it is concerned with ends as well as means. The word good is a relative expression. What is good today, it may not be good tomorrow. So from time to time, as the society keep evolving, one needs to ensure, the government needs to ensure that what is good according to the society is adequately taken care of in the process of governance. So yes, it means it is just not enough to provide goods and services to society and to enforce the law. In the course of doing so, the government has to be constantly in touch and interaction with society, so as to bring desirable changes or to impart dynamism to the existing administrative institutions, agencies, and their functioning. Then only we can bring some kind of conjunction between the governance, process of governance or nature of governance on the one hand, and expectation of society on the other. So any proactive government or efficient government can be seen as making effort to devise new ways and means to reach out to the people. It is just not enough to provide goods and services. You have to provide such goods and services with due speed and economy. You have to make the things easily accessible. And here, the information technology and all the tools, techniques, method, process associated with that information technology has come to play a very important role in the last few decades. So all the progressive governments all over the world, they have kept on making efforts since long how to harness the potential of information technology, how to harness the potential of digital governance associated with that, or the data management, data governance, how to harness the potential of these tools, technology, method, and process, so as to improve the quality of the policies, as so as to improve the efficiency of the policy implementation, to cater to the needs of society in a much better way. It is not only a matter of efficiency in terms of time, money, energy. It is also about doing justice. You have to make the best possible utilization of resources which are limited, and you are exposed to large number of people. You have to cater to the needs of society at large, and you have limited resources. And if it is accompanied by, and if you focus on data governance, if it is accompanied by data, facts, indices, statistics, then with the limited resources, despite having limited resources, you can achieve highest level of effectiveness. Why? On the basis of data and statistics, you can easily prioritize areas. You can set your priorities. You can set your priorities in terms of regions, in terms of areas, in terms of persons, groups, and communities, in terms of various processes that you are going to deploy. In this way, with the limited resources, you can accomplish best of the things. अगर आपके पास काफ़ी अच्छी टेक्नोलॉजी अगर है, तो आपके पास बहुत कम पानी होने के बावजूद भी आप खेतों में बहुत अच्छी सिंचाई कर लेंगे. पानी बेकार के फेंकने की बजाय आपने एक नेटवर्क बहुत अच्छा, स्ट्रक्चर बहुत अच्छा बना रखा है, ऐसी टूल्स और टेक्नोलॉजी आप अगर यूज़ कर रहे हैं, तो कम से कम पानी में ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा पोषण आप दे सकते हैं अपने प्लांट्स को, क्योंकि बिल्कुल वो जो पानी है लिमिटेड, बिल्कुल उसी जगह पे पानी जाएगा जहाँ पर ज़रूरत है। रूट्स में कोई पानी वेस्ट नहीं होगा, क्योंकि आपने इस पर पूरा रिसर्च कर रखा है, आपने सारी चीज़ों को समझ रखा है, उसके हिसाब से डेवलप किया। इसी तरह से अगर एक डिस्ट्रिक्ट में 50 लाख लोग हैं और आपको कुछ डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन करना है, फूड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन वगैरह, समथिंग लाइक कोरोना क्राइसिस की तरह से उस वक्त, तो आपको उन लोगों को सर्व करना है। लेकिन आपके पास अगर डेटाज नहीं है, आपके पास डेटाज अगर नहीं है, तो फिर आप ऐसे ही सारी जगह पे बराबर सारे रिसोर्सेज आप डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर दोगे, एलोकेटिव एफिशिएंसी नहीं होगी। लेकिन इफ़ यू हैव डेटाज, स्टैटिस्टिक्स, फैक्ट्स, ये सब चीज़ें हैं कि इस ज़िले में सबसे ज़्यादा कॉन्सेंट्रेशन कहाँ पे, सबसे ज़्यादा लोग कहाँ पे रहते हैं, किस जगह पे डेंसिटी ऑफ पॉपुलेशन ज़्यादा है, कहाँ पे कम है, और वीकर अंडर प्रिविलेज सेक्शंस ऑफ सोसाइटी जो हैं ऐसे उनका कॉन्सेंट्रेशन कहाँ पे है, क्या कोई पैटर्न है, कोई कोरिलेशन किस ढंग का है किसी, ये सारी चीज़ें अगर आपके पास अगर हैं, आपके पास रियल टाइम डेटा अगर है, तो आप अवेलेबल रिसोर्सेज को उसी के हिसाब से डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करेंगे, जिसमें जिनको सबसे ज़्यादा ज़रूरत है सबसे पहले उनके पास रिसोर्सेज जाएंगे, फिर उसके बाद आप सेकंड कैटेगरी है, फिर थर्ड कैटेगरी। उसी तरह से आप रीजन्स को भी आइडेंटिफाई कर सकते हैं कि सबसे ज़्यादा वल्नरेबल कौन सा रीजन है, किसी एक सिचुएशन में, नेचुरल कैलेमिटी हो या कुछ भी, सबसे ज़्यादा कौन सा रीजन वल्नरेबल है, एंड अकॉर्डिंगली आप रिसोर्स एलोकेशन वैसे ही कर सकते हैं। लिमिटेड वाटर है, पानी को लेकर के समस्या बहुत ज़्यादा है, तो उसका डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कैसे करेंगे? आप उस एरिया में ही पानी ज़्यादा सप्लाई कर बैठेंगे जहाँ पर ऑलरेडी पानी है, मोरलेस ठीक ठाक पानी है, लेकिन उस एरिया को आप छोड़ देंगे जहाँ पर सबसे ज़्यादा पानी की ज़रूरत थी। इसका मतलब इट इज़ जस्ट नॉट एनफ टू डिस्ट्रीब्यूट एंड टू प्रोवाइड गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज ऑल सच थिंग। It has to be accompanied by an element of scientificism. एक साइंटिफिक अप्रोच होना चाहिए, ठीक है जी। कितना एलोकेशन होगा, एलोकेशन कम या ज़्यादा, इट शुड बी बेस्ड ऑन प्रायोरिटीज, एंड प्रायोरिटीज आर सेट on the basis of facts, and facts indices all such things are being managed through data governance. So therefore data governance and good governance, there is a direct link between the two. In the larger context, macro level or the micro level, if you are provided with very efficient data governance, then at the macro level also you can allocate resources, financial resources, in such a way that you maintain a proper balance among various factors, the investment, production, consumption, savings, etc. You can control the things so well. Your monetary policy and fiscal policy based on dependable data. Monetary and fiscal policy can be far more effective and far more efficient at the grassroots level when resources are to be distributed. When you have to reach out to the masses, providing various goods and services. And here also, if you are backed by the data analytics and data governance, then you can be far more effective, even with limited resources. Otherwise, there is a possibility that you have abundant resources, still you are not very much efficient, you are not very much effective. आपने अपने खेत में सिस्टम बहुत अच्छा नहीं लगा रखा है, पानी का फवारा, इतना पानी फेंका, कई सारे प्लांट जो उसमें ख़त्म हो गए, और वो पानी जहाँ जाना चाहिए था पानी वहाँ नहीं गया, और उससे फ़ायदा तो दूर है, नुकसान और हो बैठा। इसलिए पूरी कंट्री में भी अगर आप देखेंगे, गुड गवर्नेंस इज़ नॉट ओनली अबाउट शाउटिंग स्लोगन्स, इसमें बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं। देयर हैज़ टू बी विजन, बट विजन हैज़ टू बी accompanied by mission. Take a mission within time-bound arrangement. You carry out different activities with a goal-oriented approach. यही सब है मिशन, बट दिस इज़ नॉट एनफ। इट मीन्स आपका जो जोश है, जोश के साथ होश भी चाहिए, और होश का मतलब ये कि आपको पता होना चाहिए कि कौन सा काम कब करना है, कितना और किस हद तक करना है, और ये सब चीज़ें तभी पॉसिबल होंगी देन यू आर बैक, व्हेन यू आर बैक्ड बाय वेरी एफिशिएंट डेटा गवर्नेंस। दैट्स वाई most of the governments, progressive governments all over the world, they are working on various tools, techniques. They're developing new tools and techniques and methods, so as to bring their governance as far as possible on scientific lines with the help of data governance. So when we talk about data governance, as the term itself expresses, data governance, you govern data, is the management of data, that you have to ensure that the data that you collect from different sources, such data are authentic, the source is authentic. Second thing, such data are to be protected. Security is important, because this may be a matter of privacy. You collect from the different sources, but the right to privacy of the people has to be maintained. Then quality and integrity of the data has to be maintained. A huge stock of information, it is required to be managed well. It is required to be properly processed and categorized. So you have to work on ethical and moral aspects. that such data information is a matter of trust. You have collected such information from different people, different groups and communities. So such information you hold, you are actually sitting in a position of you're sitting in a position of trust. So you have to maintain the integrity of the data. You have to ensure that such data is not, such information is not misused. You have to ensure such data are reliable. You have to ensure that the source is authentic. So you have to deal with ethical and moral considerations, legal aspects, legal compliance, that this data, how it is to be shared and who can share such data and where can it be made use of. All what, how and why of data is required to be managed. So legal compliance, ethical and moral compliance, conformity to ethical moral standards, then privacy and the security, the protection, lot many things are required to be taken care of. That's known as data governance. It is managed well, then such data governance can prove can play a very important role it can contribute in the process of good governance. Because good governance, finally, good governance is all about efficient utilization of resources, to reaching out to the masses, to the people, to bring a qualitative change in their lives. It is not possible without efficient and effective utilization. And efficient and effective utilization of resources depends on efficiency of data governance. We have been able to, best example, despite so much of limitation, India being a developing country, having limited resources, but we were successful in coming out of the corona crisis or dealing with the corona crisis. Why? Because of efficient data governance. We made use of the information and data. We made use of information technology in much better way compared to many even developed countries. And then we came out of the crisis. So data governance has a very important role to play in good governance. Though good governance is a very broad expression. It is not just about efficiency in policy formulation and implementation. Data governance is one of the important attributes of good governance. And in the context of India, it assumes added significance when you have to cater to the needs of such a super colossal, huge society, 140 crore people with mind-boggling heterogeneity in terms of regional specifications and the groups and the communities, then religion, the value system, how to cater to the needs of society. So this is possible. This has been possible because of efficient data governance. It has been possible for because of gradual movement of ours towards digital governance. So there is a link between digital governance or data governance, which is a part of digital governance, and good governance. So good governance, when you see the good governance is the outcome of so many factors, but political leadership and administrative leadership, both of them can be seen as leading from the forefront. Good governance is a collective action. Good governance is a collective enterprise which demands action from the political leadership, administrative leadership. Then judicial intervention is also, judiciary too has an important role to play. Then you have the bureaucracy, then civil society, media, different types of institutions, agencies, every single group or community which is dealing with one or other subject matters efficiently, or which is complying with the requirements of law, cooperating with the government, or giving expression to intellectual critique against the policies of the government in one or other ways, all of them are contributing in the process of good governance. Even I, you and others, all of us are making a contribution in good governance, as long as we comply with the requirements of law, and we also spread positive information and knowledge among the people. Then why this law is required, why you should comply with that law. So if you are doing all such things, you are contributing in the process of good governance in the larger context. Every single citizen of this country is a contributory factor to is contributing to the good governance. Clear? So good governance, but finally the good governance, the main responsibility lies with the political leadership. So good governance and whatever thing, the goods and services that we get, under good governance, it is the outcome of interplay of the action of political leadership and administrative leadership. So political leadership and administrative leadership put together, they actually provide the leadership to the process of governance or good governance. And for good governance, you need vision as well as mission. So vision is a very broad expression. How you see India 20 years down the line, how you visualize things 20 years, 10 years down the line. Vision has a strong philosophical underpinnings. Vision. has a strong philosophical underpinnings, and visions are not very much concrete, and is not very specific. So vision is required to be reduced into more concrete and specific goals and objectives. Then goals and objectives are required to be examined, to be understood, and then you choose the course of action that has to be followed to accomplish such objective, that is known as policy. So policy is the expression of objectives, and object is the more concrete expression of vision. Then again, policy making and vision is not enough. What you need is mission. So for good governance, you need vision as well as mission. So vision, then goals, purpose, and objective, then policy, and the mission. Mission means that action-oriented approach, that within time-bound arrangement, how things are to be executed. Mission means a goal-oriented approach to accomplish something within a time-bound arrangement. Choosing appropriate course of action to overcome all the adversities and challenges. So mission that involves an element of commitment that you have to get the things done. So that visionary flair and missionary zeal, both of them are required for good governance. So policy making and policy implementation, policy making with a visionary flair, and policy implementation with visionary zeal. And both of them in togetherness constitute one integrated cyclical process, policy making and policy implementation. They are not mutually exclusive. Those who are involved in policy implementation, they must be aware of the philosophy and the line of thinking behind the policy. Otherwise, their role perception will be somewhere role perception will not be very much clear. And those who are involved in policy formulation, they must be exposed to the dynamics of implementation and challenges of implementation. Then only they can play an important role. They can work in cooperation with one another to accomplish the final goal, purpose, and objective. So policy making and policy implementation in togetherness constitute a cyclical process. Now come to the next point. You have a great vision, and then you have that missionary zeal. So despite vision and mission, the sense of commitment, so it is not necessary that you will be able to accomplish the goals, because the tools and techniques and the process that you apply, the method that you apply to accomplish the things, if they are not sufficient, if they are not appropriate, then there can be a gap between what you are capable of achieving and what you are actually achieving. It is here that the gap is required to be bridged through digital governance or data governance. So what I mean to say, that when we think of good governance, we think of a very efficient, effective, collaborative action of the political leadership and administrative leadership. Good governance demands vision as well as mission. But this vision and the mission and policy making and policy implementation, this cyclical process, it can be strengthened or it can be made more efficient, more effective if it is accompanied by data governance or big data analytics. It means your policy and policy implementation, these are supported and these are guided or calibrated by big data analytics. What is big data? Big data refers to the huge supercausal stock of information, data, statistics, information, which is characterized by the volume, or for that matter variety, velocity, and then veracity, that is truthfulness. So volume, variety, or for that matter veracity, and the velocity, all put together. If you have huge data information, on the basis of this, if you frame your policies and if you choose the course of action for implementation, chances are rife that you will be able to accomplish the goals in the best possible manner with highest level of efficiency. So big data is about the huge stock of the data sets or information. And analytics means that very systematic analysis of this used data, so as to find out what is relevant and to do away with what is not so much relevant. Then documentation, then processing, all such things put together. Analytics means that the data are being analyzed to unravel the hidden pattern, that pattern, the correlation of different subsystems, different attributes, how they connect to one another, then increase in inflation has led to corresponding increase in the employment opportunities, or increase in this aspect has led to decrease in things are inversely connected to one another, or things are proportionately connected to one another. So you can identify, unravel the pattern of behavior of institutions, agencies, the people, or the stakeholders getting opportunity, whether in the sphere of economy or the society, the culture and polity. Then you can also examine the pattern, the correlation among different subsystems, administrative subsystems, social, cultural, political, how things are interacting with one another, and you deduce, you identify that pattern of interdependency. If you understand that pattern of interdependency, that correlation, on the basis of which, if you frame your policies, formulate your policies will be far more realistic, it will be far more prudent, it will be far more effective. And similarly, when it comes to implement the policies, in the course of implementation also, you are required to take number of decisions. And if such decisions are based on big data analytics, obviously it will lead to some kind of a specificity and greater amount of higher level of efficiency and effectiveness. So therefore, policy making and policy implementation, this cyclical process, if it is accompanied by, is calibrated by big data analytics, that you have you have institutions and agencies involved in collection of data from the different sources. They know how to deal with this unreal size of data. They reduce it into something which is dependable, something which is going to be meaningful, then the proper processing, so that data, and then analysis of that relevant data to unravel and to unravel that pattern or the correlation of different subsystems, different attributes. And once this pattern established, then your policy making and policy implementation becomes more effective and becomes more relevant. With the same amount of available resources, you can maximize the gains, you can maximize the output. You can accomplish the goals and objectives with list of the involvement of time, money and energy. So therefore, it is just not enough to have good intention, to have good purpose and intention, sense of commitment. So your commitment, your intent, your purpose, your energy, sense of duty, it is required to be accompanied by dependable facts, data, statistics under data governance, or for that matter, the big data analytics. So if you depend on that, then you can reach out to the masses with a greater amount of efficiency, get a higher level of efficiency and effectiveness. This is about big data analytics. Point clear? So there's a direct link between data governance and good governance. And here you can see one more link, 4 V's, that volume, velocity, variety and veracity. Veracity means truthfulness. Take it. Then variety, different sources are there. From different sources you collect information and then you establish the correlation and the pattern. Then you have velocity and volume. So if huge data, big data analytics is dependent upon. So you collect huge data characterized by volume, velocity, variety and veracity. So if your decisions are based on these 4 V's, so you use data, your decisions are largely guided by this data analytics, it leads to 4 E's. So 4 V's, big data analytics may lead to 4 E's. 4 E's means efficiency, economy, effectiveness and efficacy in the government. So 4 V's to 4 E's. And the final outcome, that if you achieve efficiency, economy, effectiveness, efficacy in your action, whether it is policy making or policy implementation, that can contribute immensely in the better governance or good governance, you can say. Points clear? So this is about basically what I was trying to establish, that the good governance is a very broad expression. There are so many good governance involves interplay of so many factors. But finally, it is concerned with the process of governance, which stand the scrutiny of means as well as ends. Final outcome of good governance, that stand the expectation of society, providing high quality goods and services, development, welfare, security, all such purposes are, the ultimate purpose is accomplished in the best possible manner. And you also interact with the society, and from time to time, you keep imparting desirable changes in your manner of functioning, bureaucratic functioning. You bring appropriate changes in your legal system, rules and procedures, the level of interaction, widening of the range of choices. You work on all such areas. So there cannot be any rigid definition of good governance. Good governance is like a journey. It is not about destination. Yes, there can be different stages of the good governance. You can identify on the basis of the priorities of the government, on the basis of the focus of the government in one or other aspects of governance so as to reach out to the masses. But there is nothing like destination, because new kind of problems and challenges, opportunities keep coming, and you are required to devise new ways and means to deal with that. Point clear? So good governance is like a journey. When we talk about data governance or when we talk about digital governance, it is something which has become relevant in the last few decades. It is all about strengthening the process of governance, by better management of facts, data, statistics, and facts are the statement of realities. So the data governance, digital governance basically aim at imparting a more an element of scientificism to the process of governance. When I talk about scientificism, it means we are talking more about scientificism. It means making your governance based on objective appreciation of facts and the details and the realities, and to that extent you hold potential, you acquire potential to achieve efficiency and effectiveness for the society at large, to improve the quality of life of the people. This is about the data governance. Next is data driven decision making. When you have data driven decision making, first of all I have discussed good governance, policy making, policy implementation. I discussed also thing, and then what are the merits when you have data driven decision making or data driven implementation. So merits, you can see the merits. It can bring improvement in your improvement in the policy making, policy evaluation. With big data analytics, your policy making, policy evaluation, implementation can be brought on scientific lines, and they'll be far more effective. Then it can improve the service delivery system. It can bring that level of optimization. That service delivery cost can be reduced, efficiency can be increased. It will be beneficial for the service providers because reduction in the cost means more of profitability, and it may be beneficial for the customers as well. Reduced cost means more competitive and lesser price. So data-centric data governance can contribute immensely in this process. What are the merits? The first one is policy formulation, evaluation, or for that matter implementation can be brought on scientific lines. And secondly, improving. For data governance, you can improve through data governance. You can improve the service delivery system. Then urban development and planning can be strengthened. Smart cities can be brought up with the help of data governance. When you have facts and data, this is the population, this is the total area, and what percentage of the total area has to be used for the roads. What percentage, how many schools and colleges are required, the density of population. Accordingly, you place, various socioeconomic infrastructure is developed, taking into consideration the total population, the density of population, the requirements of different groups and communities, all such things. But it means very smart and very prudent utilization of resources. It will not be possible without data governance, without data, facts, and statistics. Points clear? So data governance is an important factor here. Then better management of economy, your monetary policy, fiscal policy, industrial policy, commercial policy, overall management of economic resources can be brought on scientific lines with the help of data governance. You can reduce wastage of resources, then you can avoid duplication of effort, and you can be far more effective in your policy making and implementation in terms of goal accomplishment or when it comes to solve any problem. So better management. Then public health system, data governance. Good data governance means that data governance may lead to a better public health system. You can monitor the developments taking place in different parts of the country regarding the public health. So disease surveillance will be very much easier. Health policy can be formulated on more scientific or on more realistic lines. So it is important for public health, important for the economic management. It's important for urban development, and then development of smart cities. Then it is good public health. Therefore, it is important. Data governance is also important for service delivery, optimization, then policy formulation. Then it is required for citizens participation, public participation public participation in decision-making process, and public accountability of the administrative system can be ensured through the data governance management. Means things will be clear in front of the public. What is happening in the government? Data are being shared publicly. So it means people will have knowledge about what is happening in the government, and government will have all the knowledge and information regarding the developments taking place in the different aspects of life in day-to-day, in different aspects of life in life of the society. So social or economic, cultural, political, and different dimensions of life, what are developments taking place, what are the new patterns developing. So policy making will become very much efficient. You collect feedback from the society and you deliver services to the society. Society has all the information. So it will improve the level of transparency and accountability, and data governance facilitate better citizen participation. And with the help of data governance, you can manage environment as well. Environmental management is not concerned with the management of environment per se. It is about ensuring that the interaction between environment and society is on positive lines. So that environment is there. Environment is always there. It can survive without us and can survive in a much better way. We are dependent on environment. Environment is not dependent on us. So environmental management means that we have to focus on the nature of interaction between the human beings on the one hand, societies on the one hand, and environment on the other. So what kind of interaction is taking place, and if there is any kind of, why to say if, already there are so many problems. So that interaction has to be understood. The pattern of interaction, on the basis of data, fact, etc., we can decide the things in much better way, and we can ensure that the impact of such interaction on the day-to-day life of the people should be positive, and we can also control and manage such interaction with the environment in such a way that it does not create futuristic disabilities. So environmental management is basically not the management of environment. It is about the management of the consequences of interaction between human beings and societies on the one hand, environment on the other. So you have all the data, facts, indices regarding the increasing pollution, the water pollution, or for that air pollution, sound pollution. Then you have changes in the pattern of changes in the climatic conditions over a period of time, how the things are changing gradually. So if you understand that pattern, you establish this correlation, accordingly we can bring desirable changes in our standard of living. We can bring our way of living, which is in sync with the requirements of environmental protection and conservation. So environmental management, citizen participation, all such things can be accomplished through data-driven decision making. So data-driven decision making can bring advantages in all these areas: economic development, transparency and accountability, and then feedback analysis, citizen engagement. You interact with citizens, you understand their likes, dislikes, preferences, you collect feedback from them, you apply correctives. Then you have transparency and accountability I have discussed. Then you have economic development through better policies and more efficient implementation based on data governance, improved public services. Then you have urban planning and management, then policy formulation, evaluation or implementation. If these are guided by data governance, no doubt it will lead to higher level of efficiency and effectiveness. Clear? But at the same time, we have some limitations as well, demerits, and that I have discussed some extent: the privacy and security concerns. Data governance involves the questions related to right to privacy and the security. You collect data from the people, different groups and communities. So you have to ensure that such data are not misused. राइट टू प्राइवेसी इज़ नॉट वायलेटेड. आपको पता है आधार कार्ड वाला जो मामला था वो सुप्रीम कोर्ट पहुंचा. कुछ लोगों ने कहा कि आधार कार्ड का जो पूरा आइडिया स्कीम है दैट इन्वॉल्व्स इन्विजन ऑफ राइट टू प्रिवेसी विच इज़ एन इंटीग्रल पार्ट ऑफ राइट टू लाइफ एंड पर्सनल लिबर्टी. बट सुप्रीम कोर्ट Supreme Court struck fine balance between the imperativeness of respecting the privacy of society individuals on the one hand, privacy of right to privacy of individuals on the one hand, and on the other hand, the imperativeness of managing, imperativeness of collecting relevant information from the society for the better management of services, for providing better security. So on the one hand, the larger interest of society, larger interest of the society and the nation, was to be protected, and on the other hand, the individual right to privacy was to be protected. So therefore, Supreme Court struck the fine balance between the two. There is nothing wrong if you share certain information with the government, so that the goods and services or the security, welfare, all such things could be brought on more scientific lines. But the government will have to give undertaking, and the government will have to ensure that sitting in the position of trust, the government will have to ensure that such information will not be misused. And second thing, the government will not collect any information other than what is required meaningfully. This is the point. So therefore, the questions pertaining to right to privacy and security, all such things are required to be taken care of. Data governance is not such an easy thing. You collect huge amount of data. You have to ensure that it is not misused. It becomes sometimes unwieldy. It is required to be managed. It is required to be administered well. The quality and integrity has to be maintained. Point clear. So therefore, privacy and security concerns are there. Data privacy and security, then data quality and integrity, the data accuracy and data cleaning. Then you have resource intensiveness, that a lot of resources required. The cost will be very high. Data governance involves huge financial cost, and then top class experts are required to be deployed on sustained basis. So you need you need to meet the high financial, the cost, and the second thing, the requirement of quality human resource. All things are required. Then you have, as I discussed, ethical and legal issues are there. Ethical data management challenges. You have huge stock of data. The data management is a big challenge. Data, the overload of data, it may lead to disturbance in the entire system. The system may crash. So you will have to manage the huge stock, super causal stock of information. Meaningful is the huge challenge. Then you have ethical and legal issues and resistance to change. Ethical and legal issues, legal issues, that they are the issues concerned with the legal right of the people, fundamental rights of the people. Then government has to ensure that it remains within the bounds of law. No unauthorized use of information can be allowed. No unauthorized use of information. And if information is being used, data is being used, it has to be very clear that who can make use of such data, and who can make use of such data, and for what purpose it can be made use of. So all such things. So there are legal issues and there are ethical issues, because the government is sitting in the position of trust. So government has to ensure such data are not misused to the detriment of the individuals, groups, communities, or larger society. And then finally, you have resistance to change. Normally, it happens. People, whenever you go for the change, you want to bring changes, you want to collect information from the society. So there will be resistance. That resistance is required to be taken care of. It is only by trust building, that resistance can be gradually overcome. You will have to give this undertaking. You will have to convince the people that such data will be, well secured and it will not be misused. So barriers. Then you have organizational silos. Organizational silos mentality means that generally it happens that in an organization, sometimes a department, sometimes it is found in the same organization, a department may not be willing to share information with other departments for one other reason. That is known as silos mentality. So it is not so easy to collect data and to manage such data. Within the same organization, institution, very often departments, when one department is required to share information or give information to other departments, sometimes you can see the resistance. That is known as silos mentality. Okay, so they generally avoid sharing information for whatever reason. So that creates a kind of barrier in the data governance, because data governance begins with a collection of data from the different sources. First of all, collection, and then your classification, what is to be retained, what is not to be retained, then processing, documentation, a lot many things are there. Then you have ethical dilemmas, surveillance concern and consent. Society may not always give consent, to the collection of such data, information, and then surveillance concern, that you have to exercise some kind of surveillance to collect real-time data information, and for which there may not always be consent of the society. It may lead to a lot of controversy. So therefore, you can see that data governance has positive as well as negative aspects. But as it happens with most of the things, that something becomes relevant only when we succeed in ensuring that the merits far outweighs the demerits. So therefore, there are various challenges and the problems associated with data governance, but through strong data governance and better, by complying with ethical moral standards, giving undertaking to the society that information will not be misused, developing a very efficient and effective system for the protection and for the security, ensuring that authenticity of the source of information, take a sharing of information, all such things are guided by some well established scientifically drawn rules and regulations, take a compliance with ethical moral standards, then in involvement of the stakeholders, winning the confidence and trust of the society. In this way, data governance can be successful. And data governance, if it is efficient, it can contribute immensely in the process of good governance. Data governance is not good governance. It is not an end in itself. It is just means towards an end. You are going to do something. Good governance basically involves process of governance, which makes the best possible utilization of total available resources for the welfare, development, and security of the society. You are exercising authority meaningfully. You are exercising your authority with creativity. You are exercising your authority, a process of governance, under some kind of vision. Inspired by the process is imbued by democratic principles and values, sense of commitment, sense of duty. All these things are very good, but if it is accompanied by data governance, the tools and technology, and if you can make use of artificial intelligence and other things, I don't have so much idea of this technology. If you can make use of that to bring improvement in decision making, implementation, for the betterment of society with list of cost, for the futuristic generation, so then nothing like it. So technology has to be made use of. Everything has to be just in terms of being relevant or irrelevant on the basis of objective appreciation of merits and demerits. A technology or a method, the process becomes relevant only when we succeed in diffusing to a great extent its demerits and retaining its merits. So you deal with the present problems and challenges, you avail of the opportunity without creating any kind of disability for the future generation to come. These are the basic criterions to be followed. So good governance has lot many things. I am not discussing so much of good governance, but I am just trying to establish that good governance, if it is a good governance, one of the important attributes of good governance in contemporary times is the digital governance. And with digital governance, you have data governance. Okay, and then data governance is concerned with big data analytics. So this was the last one that we discussed, the demerits. And finally, strong data governance, enforcement of ethical standards, stakeholders engagement can mitigate the limitations of to great extent. So you have to diffuse these limitations and then you have to take full advantage of the merits. This is the point. So this was the merits of data-driven decision making. And then I discussed in the very first hour, I began my discussion with data governance and good governance, the link between the two. The good governance, political leadership, administrative leadership, they are not the only ones, there are others also, but they play the most important role. What is required is vision and mission, policy making in the light of vision and policy implementation with the missionary approach and zeal. So policy making, policy implementation, cyclical process, mutually inclusive. And if this policy making implementation is governed by big data analytics, then it can impart scientificism to it. It can make the entire process far more efficient, far more effective, and far more relevant. This is your big data. And then the data analytics means, as I discussed, unraveling the pattern or correlation, trends and insights among different subsystems, different kind of developments, so as to facilitate better decision making. Once you understand the pattern and the correlation, interdependency of different subsystems, then you can take a good decision. Take into consideration all such things. One clear? And then 4 V's. If 4 V's are the volume, velocity, veracity, and variety, 4 V's lead to 4 E's. So big data analytics characterized by this may lead to higher level of efficiency, economy, effectiveness, and efficacy, and that leads to better governance. So therefore, data governance or digital governance, it is not an end in itself, it is only means towards the end, but it's a very powerful instrument okay, which can contribute immensely or which is actually contributing immensely in the process of good governance. Today, it is difficult to think of good governance. It's difficult to think of efficient and effective governance without data governance. But the journey is still on. There's a long way to go. We can make a more meaningful, a more creative use of, data governance. So gradually things will improve. Already it is in process. It is in process. And what is required is to improve its quality, its dependability. Okay, but it has to be done keeping uppermost in mind the larger interest of society and the humanity. There are other issues as well related to artificial intelligence and AG, artificial general intelligence. Lot many things are there. The discussion is going on all over the world. But as long as technology remains our servant, it caters to our needs, it does not end up becoming our masters or starts interfering with the soul of our day-to-day life. So there's nothing wrong. We can continue with that. But we need to be extremely alert and vigilant. Excess of everything is bad. We have to make use of this technology. It's a means towards an end. It cannot become an end in itself. We should not allow technology, to interfere with the very soul of our life. Thank you.